Scene 1, Prologue. The Porter's Lodge of University College, Oxford. Millin stands behind the counter, on which there is a large ledger book.
Shelley. Mr. Shelley. One moment.
He opens the ledger and looks through it.
I remember Sir Timothy Shelley. Caught him climbing into college once. He hit me. Proper gentleman was Sir Timothy.
Finds the name in the ledger.
Oh, that's Shelley. Yes, I remember him. Percy Byssche Shelley. Oh, he was an odd character, that one. He didn't last long. Well, he had ideas, didn't he? If I had my way, I'd ban ideas. Now, it's these newspapers. Things were a lot better in this country when no one knew what was going on. I'd ban newspapers, I would. They've just about banned everything else. Oh, I don't mind free speech, as long as no one listens to it. But young Mr. Shelley wasn't having that. Oh, no, he wanted to speak his mind and he wanted the world to hear it. But then, Mr. Shelley was not what I would call a gentleman. Not a proper one. There are two sorts of young gentlemen in this university. There are those who tip the servants, and there are those who don't. The ones who tip are the proper gentlemen. Now, they go out riding or drinking. Now, proper drinking, mind. I've out carry a few peers of the realm across the front quad, I can tell you. I once carried our present Lord Chancellor up to his rooms on staircase 7. And then there's the other sort. The ones who don't tip. Yes. Mr. Shelley was very definitely of the other sort.
Scene 2, the Tower of University College, Oxford. It is a square tower with battlements around the top and a window below. Percy Byssche Shelley sits on the battlement, sipping from a glass of wine and munching an apple while tapping at the window below him with a long pole. He is evidently trying to attract the attention of whoever is in there. After a few taps, the window opens and Thomas Jefferson Hogg looks out.
What the devil is going on?
Hail to thee, O Hogg!
Shelley, how in God's name did you get up there?
I flew up. I was borne aloft on angel wings, and they brought me down gently here on this noble rooftop that I might survey the town of Oxford with a sneer of cold command.
And the real answer?
Well, there's a trap door in the ceiling of your rooms. Have you really never noticed? What a dull fellow you are, Hogg, to be sure.
I wish you wouldn't just come into my rooms.
I didn't just come into them. I passed through them. I passed through your ceiling.
Well, come down before you break your neck. If Millin catches you, you'll be for it.
I am a free spirit. What care I for the strictures of the college porter? Thou Hogg, thou earth-bound man of soil, have you no soul, no spirit of inquiry? Have you ever wanted to see how the world looks from the top of these ancient turrets within which we live and learn and have our young being?
No.
I am surrounded. I am beset by lack of vision. For your information, it looks splendid. Oxford is laid out at my feet like England before the Conqueror. Come up and see.
I am not clambering over rooftops.
Ugh, spineless Hogg. I had thought better of you.
And anyway, it'll be time for chapel soon.
Oh, forget chapel. Forgo chapel. Forswear chapel.
Yes, and be sent down for it. Thank you, but I prefer to go to chapel and keep my place in college if it's all the same to you. And if you take my advice, you'll go too. Yesterday, I covered for you by telling the chaplain you were mortally ill. Half-hour later, there you were, stuffing yourself in hall. He won't be fooled a second time.
Oh, you're a good and noble man, dear Hogg, to tell falsehoods in the name of friendship, especially to the chaplain. If you wish to go to chapel, then it would be an affront to our religious liberties so dearly bought by our ancestors from the oppression of the House of Stuart, for me to stand in your way, dear friend. But there's plenty of time before they ring the bell. Come on up.
I don't want to.
Yeah, but I want you to, and that's what counts.
Oh, is it?
Of course it is. Oh, come on, Tom. It's glorious up here. You'll like it.
Oh, very well, curse you. The trapdoor in my bedroom, you say?
I've left the ladder down. Now, I knocked over and smashed a small china statuette on my way up, for which, on aesthetic grounds, you really should thank me.
Not my Canton Mandarin.
It looked vaguely oriental, yes?
That Mandarin was a genuine Chinese piece, I'll have you know, and very expensive.
Staffordshire, I assure you, quite worthless. Well, it is now, at any rate.
If I don't break my own neck getting up there, I am sorely tempted to break yours.
Come, Hogg, scale the heights of Olympus.
I can't, I'm stuck. Damn and blast these trapdoors. Who do they make them for? It's all right for a beanpole like you.
Oh, Hogg, can it be that you have lived up to your name? Have you been overindulging in hall? Have you been eating all the pies?
For God's sake, Byssche, stop trying to be witty and come and give me a hand up.
I come like winged Mercury to help my friend. Here, I'll pull.
Ah! Ooh!
Really,
Ow.
Hogg, must you make such a din?
You're pulling my arm off, damn you! And moreover, I'll have you know it is extremely low to make jokes about people's names.
Oh, Hogg, you cut me to the quick. When have I ever done such a thing? And to whom? Not to you.
Yes, to me, about 30 seconds ago.
It is a calumny. A great and gross falsehood. I love you, Hogg, and will defend you to the death, yours, not mine, against all your many detractors.
Oh, shut up.
Well, what do you think? Is it not wonderful?
Let me get my breath back. Yes. It is quite a view, I grant you.
It is not quite a view. Hogg, it is magnificent.
All right, it's magnificent. Happy now? What are you doing up here anyway? You didn't climb up just to see the view.
You are correct, as always, oh perspicacious Hogg. I came up here for a bit of privacy and solitude, so that I might celebrate freely, without fear of interruption, disruption, mockery, or insults.
Celebrate what?
The election results, of course. I have been drinking the health of all of those who voted against Lord Eldon. There are quite a few of them, so I may possibly have been overindulging. Anyway, here's to them. Academic friends of liberty, I salute you. Forgive me, dear Hogg, I only brought one glass. Drink from mine. I've got some apples up here too, if you are hungry.
Why apples?
I like apples.
The academic friends of liberty. Still, it is a shame. It would have been a fine thing for the college to have one of our fellows as Chancellor.
To have a fellow of this august and ancient college elected chancellor would, I allow, have been a fine thing. But to have that particular fellow elected would have been an outrage to all decent, free-born Englishmen. What, Hogg? Elect Lord Eldon, Chancellor of Oxford? That tyrant? That foul excrescence on our constitution? The man who suspends our ancient liberties and prosecutes any who dare speak out against him? Can this be Thomas Jefferson Hogg speaking? No, my friend, you sully this memory of the great man whose name you bear. I'm proud that this ancient university has had the moral courage and virtuous fortitude to reject the tyrannical Eldon and to elect a reformer as its chancellor.
It wasn't virtuous fortitude. It's because the Tories had 2 candidates instead of 1. Simple mathematics.
Oh, Hogg, always the prosaic detail, the humdrum, the worldly.
The fall back down to earth, which is what you'll be doing if you don't come away from that parapet.
I shall not fall. I still have my destiny to fulfill, you see.
Your destiny.
Certainly. I am destined for great things. I was convinced of it when I arrived in Oxford, and now I'm certain of it.
Why? What's happened?
This.
He takes out a small pamphlet and passes it to Hogg. Hogg reads,
The necessity of atheism. What is this?
That slim pamphlet that you hold in your hands, dear Hogg, is the only true book of revelation. After nearly 2 millennia of falsehood, I have discovered the truth of our existence on this earth.
A close examination of the validity of the proofs adduced to support any proposition has ever been allowed to be the only sure way of attaining truth, upon the advantages of which it is unnecessary to descant. Our knowledge of the existence of a deity is a subject of such importance that it cannot be too minutely investigated. In consequence of this conviction, we proceed briefly and impartially to examine the proofs which have been adduced. Byssche, please tell me you didn't write this.
Of course I wrote this.
Have I read this correctly? You want proof of the existence of God?
You have read it, dear Hogg. You have read it correctly.
Blah, blah, blah. From this, it is evident that having no proofs of any of the 3 sources of conviction, the mind cannot believe in the existence of a God. It is also evident that as belief is a passion of the mind, no degree of criminality can be attached to disbelief.
You like it? Oh, Hogg, tell me you like it. Tell me it has opened your eyes and unleashed your soul.
No criminality attached to disbelief. You want to give free rein to atheists.
I want to give freedom of speech to atheists. Liberty of conscience, Hogg. Liberty of conscience.
They'll throw you out. At least you had the good sense not to put your name to it, I see. Seriously, Byssche, you do realise this could get you arrested. It's sedition.
Oh, tush. What care I for these officious labels?
You'll care a lot if you're cast into Newgate.
I shall defy them. I shall stand in the dock and face my accusers, as that great reformer Martin Luther did his, and I shall echo his famous words. Here I stand, I shall say. I can do no other, God help me.
God is not very likely to help the author of The Necessity of Atheism, now is he?
But you see, I'm not actually an atheist. I just argue that atheism is necessary. It's the only answer to rational inquiry. I don't say anyone's obliged to believe in it. I'm a libertarian.
But if no one has to believe in atheism, why is it necessary?
It's all a question of evidence, observation, evidence, deduction. Tom, when I'm doing all those chemical experiments in my rooms, what am I doing? I mean, really, what do you think I'm doing?
I think you're making the most offensive stink. In fact, I have observation, evidence, deduction, and proof that you are. It comes through my floor.
I am testing, observing, and deducing from the evidence of my own eyes. And from that simple process, all my knowledge of chemistry proceeds. All I'm saying is that we should do the same for God. Look at the evidence and draw our conclusions from it, just as we do with everything else.
You are seeking to prove or disprove scientifically the existence of God.
Oh, Hogg. Oh, sweet and lovely Hogg. You have it in a nutshell, yes. I seek to test the existence of God as I would that of iron or cobalt or any other substance.
And how do you intend to do that? God isn't a substance.
Yeah, but is he? Isn't he? Anyway, can I see him? Hear him? Smell him? Touch him? I cannot, no matter how hard I seek him. Yet it is through our senses, Tom, that we know everything that we know. I know you because I see you. I hear you. I can touch you. I know this tower is here because I see it and feel it. I know my emotions through my senses. I feel joy, sorrow, grief. It is a physical sensation. But of the existence of God, I have no physical evidence. I see nothing. I hear nothing. I smell nothing. How then can I possibly say, how can I possibly know that he exists?
I've never been to Australia and am never likely to go, but I have no difficulty believing it exists.
Yeah, and how do you know?
I've met people who've travelled there, and I've read their books.
Exactly. Tom, you believe in Australia precisely because you have evidence for its existence. Evidence from others, to be sure, but evidence nonetheless from trustworthy witnesses on whose testimony you may safely rely. Is that not how we decide on everything? But the purest evidence comes from our own senses. You see? And for the existence of God that everyone tells me I must believe in, I find none.
What evidence are you looking for?
Ideally, the evidence of my own eyes, but I shall happily accept evidence to my other senses. If I heard God's voice, then I could happily believe in him. If I felt his hand on my shoulder, I would cast aside my doubts and believe with all my heart. And I say it in the pamphlet, if anyone can produce evidence of the existence of God, trustworthy evidence that does not fly in the face of human reason, then I shall happily subscribe and attend church, chapel, temple, or mosque as many times a day as may be required.
Byssche, I'm serious. How many people have seen this?
Well, let's see, I've sent copies to the heads of all the colleges, to all the university professors, and to all the university officers. That must amount to about 100. And I've given the other copies to Slatter and Mondays across the road to sell.
Are you completely mad? I mean, seriously, have you lost your wits?
Hogg, I am but mad northwest. No, is it east? I can never remember.
Do they know who wrote it? Please tell me you didn't write a cover letter.
Of course I did.
I don't believe it.
Fear not, Hogg. They'll never know that it came from me. I said I was an elderly clergyman and that I had found the pamphlet, and I wondered if they might be interested in reading it and telling me if they could disprove its argument. And I signed the letters with an assumed name.
And you think that will fool them?
Why shouldn't it? Why shouldn't a retired clergyman pick up a pamphlet and send it to Oxford?
No reason at all. But when they all get together to discuss it, don't you think they might find it a little odd that this retired clergyman should have picked up 100 copies and sent them all to Oxford? Don't you think they might decide it's more likely to have been written by the person who sent it?
Oh, yes, I see what you mean. That's it. I didn't think of that.
As far as I can see, you didn't think of anything. Enough. I am going back down to collect my gown and go to chapel, and you, Shelley, are coming with me. No argument. I am going to save you from your own folly, Byssche, if it kills me, which it seems to me is becoming more likely with each succeeding day.
Do you really think I'm in trouble, Tom?
Yes, I do.
Oh, good. Oh, in trouble is the only place for an honest man in these times.
Byssche, you are a fool.
It is no folly to stand up for our liberties against a government that would take them away.
Is that what this is about? Byssche, I am as ardent a supporter of liberty as you, but think a moment. Would you really prefer to live under Bonaparte?
What? And why not? Let him come, I say. Let him march in triumph through Whitehall, his drums drumming, his banners held high. What possible harm can he do that our government has not already done 100-fold?
For God's sake, Byssche, will you add treason to sedition?
No, consider, Tom. Bonaparte lands and decides to subject Old England to French tyranny, just as is done throughout Europe.
So you do accept he is a tyrant?
Of course I do, but how will he set about his tyranny, do you suppose? How does one dismantle an ancient constitution like ours? Perhaps he begins by suspending our hallowed right of habeas corpus. Let no one in England feel safe from arrest at the whim of an officer. Except there's no need, our government has already done it for him. Very well, he said. Let England's old freedom of speech die. Whoever criticizes his rule, be it in speech or print, shall be charged with sedition and imprisoned by the courts. Ha, says John Bull, what new tyranny is this? Except it's not new, our government has already done it. Very well, says Boney. I shall clamp down on your ancient rights of assembly. No more shall Englishmen meet freely and speak on the matters of the day. Any who try to do so shall be imprisoned. What do you think of that, fine English fellows? Why, Boney, they reply, what a dullard you are, to be sure. Our government did that long ago. All right, he says, I shall censor your press. Huh? I shall suppress your newsreels and your poets. I shall charge your theists and atheists with sedition. I shall tax your bread, put your artisans out of work, and forbid them to combine in protest. And what shall England reply? Why, Boney, you waste your time and breath. There's nothing, literally nothing, that you can do to trample on our freedoms that our government has not already done to the people, whom it designates with contempt as the swinish multitude. And sitting plumb in the centre of that government, that conspiracy of scoundrels against England's freedom, right at its heart, if it can be said to have, of course, justifying, defending, and strengthening this tyranny by every trick of law his wicked wits will find, sits the Lord High Chancellor of England, fellow of our own dear college, failed candidate for Chancellor of the University of Oxford, His Grace the noble Lord Eldon. I tell you, Tom, if I regret anything about my pamphlet, anything, it is that by denying the existence of God, I deny also the existence of a hell into which I can cast his black soul.
Why don't you tell him so? He's just down there.
Yes. What?
Lord Eldon. He's down there, getting out of his carriage and coming into the lodge. Look, there's the master coming across the quad to meet him. He's probably here about the election.
Where is he?
Down there, see him? In the tall black hat.
The monster, the devourer of liberty. Listen, Hogg. Do you hear that? Do you hear that noise?
What noise?
Those distant cries of pain and anguish, those are souls of all who have suffered, calling out to us, vengeance, vengeance, shall their cry go unheard?
I can't hear anything. You're making it up.
Look at him. Look at him over there, smiling like death.
He's not smiling. He looks furious.
Don't be pedantic, Tom. Smiling's more poetic. Can you watch him unmoved? Can you stand and see that beast, that unnatural villain walking into our beloved college, sullying its ancient stones with his vile steps? I tell you, Hogg, no true Englishman could watch it without his blood boiling within him. A true Englishman would knock that wretched hat from his accursed head, and if I had something to hand,
He looks at the apple in his hand.
Byssche, no. No, you can't. He's the Lord Chancellor of England.
I know. Isn't it fun?
There'll be hell to pay.
Wait till he comes out of the lodge and into the quad. I'll get him.
Byssche, you cannot knock the hat off the head of the Lord Chancellor.
I bet I can.
Bell rings.
That's the chapel bell. Come on, Byssche, you can't miss chapel, not after yesterday.
Look, you go on. I'll join you. He's coming out now.
Look, there's Millin down there. He'll see you.
Look, Millin shan't see me. He shall only see my apple. Now, if you just walk forward a few steps so I can get the angle.
Byssche, we've got to get to chapel.
Now, tyrant.
I can't watch.
Damn.
You missed?
Well, I missed his hat. Hit him full in the face, though. Shot him from a difficult angle, too.
Who threw that?
Quick, before Millin comes up, we are coming down off this wretched tower right now. We are getting our gowns and we're going to present ourselves in chapel like good boys. All right?
Hogg, I shall follow thee wherever thou leadest. After that shot, that blow for freedom, for liberty, for the rights of Englishmen, I shall walk tall wherever I set my feet.
Then follow me, as tall as you like, through this trapdoor and over to chapel. And Shelley, one thing I implore you.
Say on, Hogg. What shall it be?
For God's sake, stop talking.
They go through the trap door. Scene 3. The Master's Lodge. The Master, Dr. Griffith, tends to Lord Eldon, who sits, pressing a brown paper and vinegar poultice to his cheek.
If you were just able to sit still, my lord. Millin assures me it is necessary if the brown paper and vinegar are to have a chance to soothe the pain.
Damn it all, Master, I did not come here to sit still. I did not come here to be assaulted.
I can only apologise, my lord.
Apologise? I have been subjected to a violent assault. I say a violent assault within the precincts of my own college, and you can only apologise. You can do a lot more than that, sir. You can find the party responsible and subject him to exemplary punishment. I say exemplary punishment.
I assure you, my lord, I shall institute the fullest inquiry. The culprit shall be found.
Found, identified, punished, and broken, sir. Nothing less will suffice. This is another sign of the lax regime you run here, Dr. Griffiths.
My lord, forgive me. The young men are often boisterous and not infrequently the worst for drink. This sort of thing happens all the time. Only a fortnight ago, a group even of young gentlemen took exception to something the dean had said and staged a fox hunt under his window late at night, complete with fox.
I am not talking about drunken antics. I expect nothing less of English gentlemen. I am talking about radicals, sir. I say radicals, sir. Yes, here in Oxford, revolutionaries, subversives, purveyors of sedition and French republicanism. I am talking about a deliberate assault upon the person of the Lord Chancellor. I embody the law of England, sir, and an assault upon my person is an assault upon the law. I say it is an assault upon the law. That apple, Dr. Griffith, was a political apple.
With all due respect and deference, my lord, and without in any way belittling the outrage that has occurred, we do not yet know that it was actually thrown at your lordship. It might have been an accident.
How the devil do you throw an apple by accident?
Or it may not have been aimed specifically at you. It might just as easily have been aimed at me.
Why should it have been aimed at you?
My recent commentaries on the histories of Herodotus have provoked a certain level of debate and hostile comment. The apple could have been an expression of academic rather than political criticism. Do you see?
Do you academics usually sort out your differences by hurling fruit at each other?
Not as a general rule, my lord, but, well, it's a first time for everything.
Master, you do not appear to appreciate the full significance of what has occurred. Do I really need to remind you of the times we live in?
I am sure you don't, my lord.
We are at war, sir. I say at war, not just with Bonaparte, but with the very forces of sedition here in England.
As you say, my lord.
With those who would pull down our sacred constitution, the crown, the church, the law, and the universities, and establish a Jacobin republic in this land. Do you want to see a guillotine erected in the front quad, Master?
I'm not quite sure where we'd find the room for it. Oh, I see. No, of course not.
Because that is what you will have if you do not root out these radicals, these reformers, these subverters of our constitution. I tell you, Master, this country is infested with Republicans. I say Republicans, sir, mindless worshippers of the swinish multitude, of machine breakers and rioters, villains, sir, desperados, assassins, and now apple throwers.
No effort will be lost, my lord, in seeking these people out and in dealing with them.
If they came before me, they would see the inside of Newgate quicker than they can blink. I say quicker than they can blink, sir. Let them reform from there if they've a mind to. Which brings me to my main purpose in coming here. I refer, sir, to the election.
Ah, yes. The election, to be sure, yes, to be sure.
Well, sir.
I very much regret to report, my lord, that you lost.
I know I lost. I want to know why. I had imagined in my innocence that the master and fellows of my own college might have put in the necessary effort to secure the correct result. I say the correct result, sir.
We did everything we possibly could, my lord. We spoke on your behalf all over Oxford. The Chancellorship has always gone to a staunch Tory. No one expected this election to be any different.
Then why was a second Tory candidate allowed to stand?
We did try to dissuade him, my lord, but there really is nothing in the rules to stop any Master of Arts of the university from standing. And once the Duke of Beaufort had put his name forward, there was nothing we could do to stop people voting for him if they thought he might make how shall I say, perhaps a better chancellor than you, my lord.
But he hasn't made a better Chancellor, has he? Because you haven't got him. You've got Lord Grenville, and Lord Grenville is a Whig. Lord Grenville is a reformer. That's who you've got for Chancellor of Oxford, thanks to your bungling, sir.
My lord, this is unjust. It is a free election after all.
That doesn't mean that people can vote for anyone they like.
His election is certainly most regrettable.
Regrettable? Regrettable? I'll tell you what it is, Master. It is much more than regrettable. It is a sign of the collapse of...
The door bursts open and the chaplain enters, rather breathless.
What the devil?
Master, forgive me. I must see you this instant on a matter of grave urgency.
Who the devil are you, sir, that you burst in like this on the master?
My lord, you have not yet met the new college chaplain, I believe, the Reverend Mr. Dorkins, Lord Eldon, the Lord Chancellor.
My lord, pray forgive this unpardonable intrusion.
I can hardly forgive it if it is unpardonable, Mr. Dorkins.
I assure you this matter is of the utmost importance. It must come to the master's attention without delay.
What matter?
This.
Oh, that.
What is it? A pamphlet?
Yes, my lord. A pamphlet. It bears the title of... I hardly know how to say the words. The necessity of atheism.
The necessity of what?
Of atheism, my lord. Atheism is the denial of the existence of God.
I know what atheism is. I was not aware that it is necessary. Show me that.
It is obviously the same as the one that was sent to me.
Sent to you, master.
Yes, all the heads of houses received a copy a few days ago. We had a meeting about it yesterday. The general opinion was that it was an undergraduate hoax and that the pamphlet should be destroyed. I had already put mine on the fire as soon as I received it.
Tell me, did you read this before you destroyed it, master?
I glanced over it. It struck me as shallow and impudent.
It is certainly impudent. I am not so sure that it is shallow. Listen to this. The senses are the sources of all knowledge to the mind. Consequently, their evidence claims the strongest assent. In other words, we should only believe what we can see or hear or touch.
Or smell, my lord.
What?
The smell, my lord. It is one of the senses, I believe. I thought it might help.
Thank you, Mr. Dorkins. The point is it true? Does all our knowledge come from our senses?
It seems, on the face of it, a mild enough assertion, though, of course, it omits the spiritual senses.
Mild, you say? I hardly think so, master. Tell people only to believe what they can see or hear or smell, Mr. Dorkins. And where will we be? Good God, sir, we want them to believe in British justice, but I'm damned if I'm going to let them see it. But why, if we showed people the Prince of Wales and charged them twopence admission at Buckingham House, belief in the monarchy would collapse overnight. No, sir. Belief and the senses should be kept rigidly apart. I say rigidly apart. What else does it say? No testimony can be admitted which is contrary to reason. Well, this is clearly sedition.
Certainly, we do not want reason to be given free rein in Oxford, my lord. It would reduce the university to a conclave of mathematicians.
Oh, there's more. Now it's asking if there is any tangible evidence of the existence of God. Tangible, mind.
Surely the very existence of the world is proof of the existence of a creator. How else could it have come into being?
Well, here's your answer. The scoundrel admits that the origins of the universe are incomprehensible, but he says that to ascribe them to an omniscient almighty being only renders them more so, not less.
Oh, this is childish.
Well, maybe. This bit isn't. Now we see his true colours. See here, where he reaches his conclusion. Having no proofs from any of the three sources of conviction, the mind cannot believe the existence of a God. Well, there you have it. This is an illegal atheistical publication.
My mind can believe it.
As an ordained minister of the Church of England, Mr. Dorkins, I should hope it can. It would be a bit strange if you, of all people, were to think God a delusion.
It hardly matters what Mr. Dorkins does or does not believe. The point is, the Church of England is established by law. We don't choose whether or not to believe in God. It is our legal duty. The only people who don't are Jacobins and Republicans. But see here, it is also evident that no degree of criminality can be attached to disbelief. So he wants French atheism to run riot, does he? Well, I'll give him atheism. I'll give him proof. Make no mistake, Mr. Dorkins. This pamphlet of yours is the most serious challenge to the established order in this country that you or I are ever likely to live to see. It must be stamped out. I say stamped out, sir.
Where exactly did you find it, Mr. Dorkins?
I saw it in the window of Slatter and Mondays over the road, Master. The title page caught my eye as well as it might, and I went in. There were copies strewn all over the shop. I asked to speak to Mr. Slatter and pointed out he was laying himself open to prosecution.
Indeed he is. Having it in his window constitutes advertisement. He is liable in law.
And he told me, and this is why I came straight to you, Master. He told me that the pamphlet is the work of a member of this college.
Of this college?
Of this college?
Of this college.
Of this college!
Who is it?
Mr. Shelley.
I might have known.
Mr. Shelley? Who is Mr. Shelley?
A commoner in his first year, my lord, son of Sir Timothy Shelley, MP.
Oh, I know Sir Timothy Shelley. The man's a damn radical, and a rascal to boot.
Nevertheless, a much respected old member of the college, my lord. We wanted to oblige him by taking his son.
Well, now you can oblige him again by kicking his son out. The necessity of atheism, indeed. The necessity of expulsion. I say the necessity of expulsion.
I think we must proceed with caution, my lord, and with justice. Do we know for certain that Shelley wrote this? What evidence did Slatter have?
He said his assistant reported that Shelley came in yesterday with a great pile of copies, set them up in the window and around the shop, said they were his best work to date, and advised him to sell them at 6p each. Mr. Slatter seemed to think that gave him something of a clue.
It is more than a clue. It is proof.
With great respect, my lord, we only have Slatter's account of what his assistant said. It is not evidence, as it were, from his own senses. We would need to hear it from Shelley's own mouth. And anyway, should we really take it so seriously? Mr. Shelley is, how shall I put it?
Odd. Decidedly odd.
I was going to say a poet, Mr. Dorkins, but yes, I suppose odd would cover it. And let us remember, he is very young. We all do rash things when we are young, things we might regret later.
When I was young, I eloped with a collier's daughter. I didn't write pamphlets attacking the established church and putting them in bookshops.
Well, maybe Mr. Shelley can be persuaded to abandon theology and run off with someone's daughter instead.
Surely not suggesting we simply ignore this pamphlet, Master.
Not at all. But I wonder if, saving Lord Eldon's presence, I wonder if the full rigour of the law is quite appropriate in this case. I was thinking that perhaps a reprimand and, of course, a withdrawal of the pamphlet might suffice.
But it challenges us to prove God exists.
Well, you're the college chaplain, Mr. Dorkins. You should be able to do that, surely.
The existence of God cannot be proved. It just is.
If it can't be proved, then what the devil is the point of the Church of England?
God does not comply with the normal rules of proof. The scriptures give plenty of examples of people who came to grief, but precisely because they looked for proof.
Well, let's add Mr. Shelley to their number, shall we?
The Christian path is to be charitable, my lord. I hope we can be charitable in this case.
Master, I must protest. This pamphlet is an impudent challenge to the established church.
Don't you think, Mr. Dorkins, that the established Church of England, which has after all survived the Armada, the Civil Wars, the Glorious Revolution, two Jacobite pretenders and the Methodists, might survive a 3-page pamphlet by a first-year undergraduate?
But if we let him get away with it, Master, where will it end?
I'll tell you where it will end. If you allow atheism to walk unchecked through the cloisters of Oxford, it will end in revolution. It will end in riot. It will end in bloodshed. It will end in a great parade, a mask of anarchy.
Even so, I cannot proceed unjustly against a member of the college. It is a matter of principle.
Damn your principle, sir. Stick to your party.
I should like time to consider what is best to be done.
Master, perhaps I can help you out of your dilemma. There is an angle of this affair that you do not appear to have considered. Tell me, Mr. Dorkins, do you intend to spend the remainder of your days as chaplain of University College?
My lord, your question surprises me.
Pray don't let that stop you answering it.
Certainly I have entertained hopes of obtaining a comfortable living somewhere, a parish of not too great a size, where the duties are perhaps less onerous than here, and with a bounteous and generous patron. A chance to read, to write my history of the early church.
Mr. Dorkins, I have control of a living in Lincolnshire that might perhaps meet your requirements. A healthy benefice, a small parish community, a needy curate willing to take on much of the parochial work, plenty of time to devote to your writing. And of course, a highly influential patron.
My lord, I would not dream of presuming upon your kindness.
And you, master, do you have hopes or ambitions for yourself?
For myself, I have no particular plans, my lord. Though, I confess, I have had thoughts of erecting a new lodgings building where I might live within the college. I find these lodgings rather cramped and dingy. There is a plot of land in the college grounds along the High Street frontage which would serve admirably.
I'm sure it would. And I am even more sure that the money for it can be found, with the right patron. But what about when your time in your new lodgings is over, when you step down as master? I had heard, perhaps wrongly, that your eyes have occasionally turned towards the See of Durham. Do you not think he would make a good Bishop of Durham? I do.
I can hardly talk of my poor abilities, my lord, but I flatter myself that I do think the task would not be beyond me.
Good. Then, since both of you gentlemen have hopes of preferment to better things, might I suggest that you take note of the wishes of your patron? Nurture atheism in the bosom of this college, gentlemen, and you may no longer look to me for patronage. No longer shall I exert my influence on the college's behalf, and need I remind you, consort with the highest in the land. I dine with the Prime Minister.
You mean if we let Shelley off, you won't help us anymore?
Well done, Mr. Dorkins. That is exactly what Lord Eldon means.
I shall leave you to consider your course of action. I am returning to London, but I shall watch out for news of your decision with the greatest of interest. I have been disappointed in the election, gentlemen. It would be most unwise to disappoint me again.
I am sure we will find a course of action which will meet with your lordship's approval.
I would strongly advise it. There's no need to send Millin to see me out, master. I can find my own way. Though God knows, I do begin to wonder if I am truly in my old college. Radicals, reformers, atheists, republicans. Good God, you would think we're in Cambridge.
Exit Lord Eldon.
Well, Master, what are you going to do?
Do not rush me, Mr. Dorkins. I need time to think.
But surely our concourse is clear. Shelley must go.
We must proceed with justice. It would be unjust to send him down for a youthful prank. After all, what if he did not write it?
Oh, what if he did?
I cannot take action against anyone, and especially not a member of the college, unless I am absolutely certain he is genuinely at fault.
But he must be at fault. He's a poet. He and that sanctimonious friend of his, Mr. Hogg. You know, Master, that Shelley was not at morning chapel yesterday. Hogg told me his friend was in bed at death's door. I was moved by his description and was preparing to go to his rooms after breakfast to see how he fared when, lo and behold, Shelley appeared in hall, obviously having made enough of a recovery to tuck with conspicuous gusto into the devil's kidneys. One might even call this a miracle, except we must not believe he believes in such things.
Even so, Mr. Dorkins, I will not act unjustly.
Master, if you don't throw him out, Lord Eldon will withdraw his patronage. I will never have my little country parish, and you will never be Bishop of Durham. We will be stuck here forever. It infuriates me to think of that odious young man and his friend standing between me and my parish.
I think I should like to sleep on it, Mr. Dorkins.
I can see no alternative. Shelley must go.
Indeed. Thank you, Mr. Dorkins.
He must depart.
I shall take note of your views, Mr. Dorkins.
He must leave. He must not spend another night in college.
I shall wish you good night, Mr. Dorkins.
Away with Shelley! Shelley must go!
Good night, Mr. Dorkins.
Exit Chaplain. Scene 4. The Master's bedroom. Enter the Master, dressed in nightgown and nightcap. He climbs into bed and tries to sleep, but tosses and turns, talking in his sleep.
I shall not act unjustly. I shall not act unjustly. Lodgings. I shall not act unjustly. Bishop of Durham.
Shelley must go!
Nurture atheism in the bosom of this college, gentlemen, and you may no longer look to me for patronage.
If you don't throw him out, Lord Eldon will withdraw his patronage. We will all be stuck here forever.
And so begins the Master's dream. Enter Eldon. He carries a large royal crown and a large cross. He is dressed as he was before, but with no breeches or trousers.
Lord Eldon, what brings you here?
I am pursued, Master. I am pursued.
Why? Who pursues you?
This whole scene plays out like a Gilray and Crookshank cartoon come to life, which would be awesome if we weren't on Zoom. Enter Shelley, dressed as a French revolutionary with red bonnet, tricolour, etc. He carries a small guillotine whose blade goes up and down like a mouth.
It is I, Shelley, killer of kings. Look on my works, ye godly, and despair.
Save me, Master, save me. It is the monster of sedition. It is the monster of atheism. It is the monster Shelley.
Enter Chaplain, wearing a sandwich board saying Shelley must go.
Shelley must go. Out with Shelley.
Ha ha ha! I'll crush your dreams and trample your faith into the bargain. How do you like my French jaws, eh? They'll make 39 articles of you.
Out, out, vile Shelley.
Never get your hands on the Constitution, you monster. I shall escape.
Eldon makes for the door, but Hogg enters, accompanied by lots of pigs, and bars his way.
Not so fast, Lord Eldon. It is I, Hogg, and the swinish multitude.
Run, Master, run. There are ordinary people in college.
I'm a-coming. I'm a-coming. Who wants a chop, then?
Eldon throws the crown to the Master.
Save the Constitution.
Throws the cross to the Chaplain.
Mr. Dorkins, save the church.
There is a chase. A madcap chase ensues as Shelley and Hogg try to wrest the crown and the cross from the others. Eventually, the Master finds himself back in his bed and sits up with a start. Immediately, the chase stops. All the other characters exit, and the room returns to normal.
Lord Eldon? Chaplain? Are you there? Did I dream it?
Gingerly, the Master climbs out of bed, checks the bed hangings and everywhere else that is featured in the chase, and makes his way to the window. He opens the window and looks out.
It's light. But is it morning or evening? Hi there! I say! Millin!
Yes, Master?
What time is it?
Can't you see the college clock? It's big enough. It's 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock. In the morning?
Of course it's in the morning.
Thank you, Millin. I would be obliged if you would knock up Mr. Shelley and tell him I wish to see him straight after chapel on a matter of great importance. Tell him he is on no account to be late.
What? You want me to go and knock him up? This time?
If you would be so kind.
Oh, very well. I don't know. Falling apart, this college is. Young gentleman, I can't even knock it off properly.
It is a warning, a dream sent to alert me. Mr. Shelley is indeed the monster of sedition. He must be dealt with right away, and I shall be Bishop of Durham. Shelley shall not stand in my way.
Scene 5, outside the master's study. Hogg sits on a chair, obviously waiting anxiously. We hear raised voices from behind the door. The door opens and Shelley enters. He looks dazed. Without a word, he staggers past Hogg and sits in a chair.
Byssche? What happened? Byssche?
Shelley makes to speak, but no words come.
Byssche, what's happened?
I am expelled.
What?
I am expelled.
Expelled?
I am expelled.
But what for? For writing the pamphlet?
I am expelled.
What did you explain about it? Did you tell them it merely asks for proof? It doesn't deny the existence of God.
I am expelled.
Yes, I've gathered that. But on what grounds? They have to have legal grounds. They can't just turf you out.
I am expelled.
You sit there and take your time. You're shaking.
They didn't listen, Tom. They didn't listen.
Who was there?
The master, the dean, the chaplain. They had my pamphlet in front of them. I was going to explain it. I was going to explain the logic of my argument, but the master didn't want to hear. He just asked me very fiercely if I wrote.
And what did you say?
I said nothing.
Good man. Don't incriminate yourself.
Well, he asked me again, did you write this pamphlet? And I said I wouldn't answer, and he had no right to demand it of me in such a tone.
That's the spirit, Byssche.
Yes, so I said that might be the way the Inquisition works in Spain, but it was no way for an Englishman to conduct himself.
This is fine, Byssche.
He asked again, did you write this? I said I would not answer so impertinent and improper a question.
Bravo, Byssche.
Yes. And then he said I was expelled and must leave this college.
Just like that.
The dean, he took out a big paper already drawn up with my name on it, saying I was expelled, with the college seal at the bottom.
Already drawn up? Byssche, they had made their minds up before you went in. That is no way of proceeding. That is no trial. It is a travesty of justice.
Well, yes, that's what I thought.
Byssche, I shall go in there and I shall tell them so.
Would you really do that for me, Tom?
Well, I would.
Oh, you are a true friend, Tom.
Wait there. They must give you a chance to put your side of the case. It is the basic right of an Englishman, guaranteed in the Magna Carta. And if they won't listen, I shall write to my father. He has a very good attorney who will take this case on, I am sure of it. You wait there, Byssche. I'll deal with this.
Why, Tom, you really are a noble fellow.
I'll make him see reason.
Hogg knocks at the door. We hear the master's voice call,
Come in!
and Hogg opens the door and enters the room. Hogg closes the door behind him. We hear voices, Then, raised voices. Shelley sits slumped in his chair, mouthing, "I am expelled." Then the door opens and Hogg comes out again.
I am expelled.
What? You too? But why?
I said I agreed with every word in your pamphlet, and if they were going to expel you, they might just as well expel me. So, they did.
Oh, Hogg, this is splendid.
Is it? I doubt my father will see it that way.
Yes, nor will mine, but what care I for that? We are martyrs to the cause now, you and I. Cast out of Eden, we shall toil in the world and grow strong, fed on the good meat and drink of English injustice.
It's meat and drink I'm thinking of. My father is bound to cut my allowance.
Oh, tush, we shall write to you and I, and live romantically on the pittance our sonnets bring us.
I don't write sonnets.
Hogg, sweet Hogg, be not downcast. We have a life ahead of us. If Oxford does not want us, let us brush its ungrateful dust from our feet and follow the road to London, fame and fortune.
But what will we do when we get there?
Well, there's always something to do in London. I intend to build on my notoriety. Would you describe me as notorious?
I would now.
Yes, splendid. I shall present myself to London as a victim of Oxonian intolerance and Eltonian vengeance. Aha! I say, that's rather good. Do you have anything to write it down with? I might use that later on.
I suppose I could write to my father and explain.
Yes, and I shall write essays, proper essays from the reviews, and verses to hold Eldon and Castlereagh, all the rest of them up to the just contempt of mankind. I shall expose the corrupt hearts of the Prince Regent and all his ministers, and I shall make them tremble like aspen in the wind. My published works will stand like a mighty army in the booksellers' windows, and I shall defy them, Tom. I shall defy them all. Princes, lords, ministers, bishops, the old king himself. I shall but wave my arm at my books and cry, look on my works, ye mighty, and despair.
I don't need to look at your books. I only need to look at my bank account and despair.
Oh, Hogg, I cannot bear you to see you in such despond.
It's all very well for you, Byssche. You're brilliant.
I say, am I? Am I really?
Yes, damn you, I believe you are. You write beautifully. Everyone notices you. You only have to step off the coach in London and it will be in the public prints. Where does that leave me?
I'm sorry, I don't follow.
Of course you don't. Following is exactly what you don't do. You run on ahead, talking, writing, loving every minute of it. But I tell you, Byssche, you wouldn't get very far without people like me to bear you up and listen to you and catch you when you fall. But you're so taken up with yourself that you don't even know that, do you? Why aren't you saying anything? Why aren't you coming back at me with a witty riposte? What are you up to?
For once, dear friend, I'm up to nothing. If I am silent, it is because I am faced with something I've seldom glimpsed before.
What do you mean?
I mean, you have brought me face to face with the truth. You're right, Tom, and I apologize. I do depend on you. I depend on you and others like you. And to tell true, I probably always shall. I can't help that, I'm afraid. But if I sometimes forget it, and I do, I confess it. Never think I don't know it. I owe you a lot, old friend.
£3, 17 shillings and 6 farthing, to be precise. I've been keeping count.
Yeah. Oh, Hogg. I was going to scold you for always emphasizing the mundane and the dreary.
The practical. I can't live on air.
I am well rebuked, and I will tell you more. I may repay some of that money. I may even repay all of it, but I will never pay. I can never pay all that I owe you, dear Tom. Here, let us swear eternal friendship. My hand upon it.
Why did I ever fall in with a poet?
Yeah. But tell me, Tom, have you really no ideas for anything to write? A splendid fellow like you must have thought of something.
Well, I did have one thought. I don't suppose it's any good.
Tell.
It's a story rather than a poem, you understand.
Well, stories are just as noble as the greatest verse. Our literary forebears told fine and splendid stories. Perhaps you will be a new Chaucer for the modern age.
Well, I've been reading some books about the elements, and especially about electricity and lightning.
Why, Hogg, you are romantic after all, my dear friend.
And I just wondered if lightning is one of the sources of light and power and, well, of life itself.
Yes, go on.
What if someone were to harness that power?
Oh, you mean like a mill wheel and a mighty cataract?
Yes, only even more dramatic. You see, the water merely turns the wheel, but what if you could somehow direct the lightning into a person?
Oh, well, you'd kill them.
But what if they were already dead? What if a man of science and learning were to work out how to direct the power of the heavens into the lifeless hulk of a corpse? And what if the extinct element of life within that dead body were to be sparked by that power back into life again? What about that, eh?
To have control, both over life and death, you mean? To decide not who shall die, but who shall stay dead. Huh. Why, Hogg, this is a splendid notion.
Yes, but, and here's the nub of it, Byssche, what if the good doctor were to make a mistake? What if, instead of raising a good man back to life, he were to raise a criminal, a murderer, a monster?
Now I think you're pushing it too far, and I don't think anyone's going to believe that.
Well, I think it's a good story.
Oh, no, of course it is, old fellow. What were you thinking of calling it?
I shall call it after the man of science, Dr. Frankenberg.
Good man. Yes, write it down, but don't tell too many people about it. You don't want someone stealing it. Well, I suppose we ought to be going. The master wants us out of his college by tomorrow morning, and what the master wants, the master shall have.
I still think this is all jolly unfair. They should have let you explain.
It wouldn't have done any good. They didn't want to listen to reason. I'm not sure they would know reason if it was served to them in hall on a platter. I say we'd better hurry. You know, I feel quite dizzy when I think of how much packing there is for the servants to do.
Ah, you are both still here.
Yes, Dr. Griffith. Even such radicals as we are cannot be halfway to London in a matter of minutes.
I do not like your tone, sir.
Dr. Griffith, you have cast me from your college, and thereby you have renounced any authority you might have over me. I think I may address you in any tone I choose.
You are impertinent, Mr. Shelley.
Come on, Byssche, let's go and get our things.
One moment, Tom. Dr. Griffith is right. I am impertinent. And so are you, Tom. Yes, you are. But if you're not, you ought to be. If we took it beyond the bounds of common politeness, Dr. Griffith, then I apologize. But for our impertinence, I offer no apology. You know I wrote that pamphlet. We all know I wrote it. We all know That is the real reason you are throwing me out.
You are expelled, sir, for contumaciously refusing to acknowledge you wrote it.
Hogg and I may be young Dr. Griffith, but even we weren't born yesterday. I'm expelled for my pamphlet, not, however, for what I wrote in it, but for having had the impertinence to write it at all. Had you let me speak in there, Dr. Griffith, you would have learned that I am no atheist. I don't deny God, I just ask for proof of God. The Apostle Thomas did the same, I believe, and he was made a saint. You'll find similar arguments to mine in Aquinas and St. Augustine. No, it is not for the content of my pamphlet that I am expelled, nor is it for not answering your question. It is because at a time when no one dare speak out, no one dare challenge, no one dare say anything that might give displeasure or offense for fear of what the law might do to them, I dared. I dared speak. It doesn't matter what I said. What matters is that you didn't like it. And I've paid the penalty for your displeasure. Well, Dr. Griffith, you may sleep easy in your bed. Tom and I shall leave the college. It will not be quite the hardship you imagine. In truth, I've learned little in my time here in Oxford, but I've learned this much, that freedom of speech means nothing if you're not free to give offense. Oh, we revel in our freedom when we're offending Bonaparte, but when the offense comes a little closer to home, why, then we have a document of expulsion, all drawn up ready, with the college seal on the bottom. So, thank you, Dr. Griffith. My Oxford education has taught me but one lesson, but it is a big one, and you may be sure I shall take it into the world beyond these walls.
Mr. Shelley, Mr. Hogg, you will leave my college by the end of morning chapel tomorrow. Good day to you both.
Exit the master.
Come, Tom. The great wide world awaits us. With luck, we can catch the London coach at midday.
Exit Shelley.
Dr. Griffith got his wish. Shelley did run away with someone's daughter, Harriet Westbrook, not long after we left Oxford. They got married, rather to my surprise, and had 2 children. But Byssche's domestic life was always rather complicated. He left her and Harriet drowned herself. She had wanted him to have custody of their daughter, but the case went to court and was heard by, who else? Lord Eldon. He declared Shelley morally unfit to have charge of any child, and Byssche never saw his daughter again.
Enter Shelley with Millin dragging a large trunk behind him. Shelley waits for Millin to bring the trunk over and then sits on it while Millin goes off to get a second trunk.
But you know Byssche, never down for long. He got married again, to Mary Godwin. Well, he had to, really. I always rather liked Mary. I told her all about my idea for a story. Byssche was writing pretty constantly by now, just as he said he would, but he made too many enemies in high places. He and Mary had to leave England and go to Italy, and that's where it all ended. He drowned, not swimming the Hellespont or fighting for Italian liberty or anything romantic like that. Just a boating accident, a month short of his 30th birthday. I got to write his biography.
There you go, Mr. Shelley. Mr. Hogg, the London coach will be here in half an hour.
Millin holds his hand out for a tip. Hogg gives him one. Shelley ignores him and exits. Millin looks at the audience as if to say,
I told you so.
And exits.
Lord Eldon continued as Lord Chancellor until even the Tories thought he'd been there long enough. Dr. Griffith never did become Bishop of Durham. He didn't get his new lodgings either. That little plot of land he had his eye on is now taken up with a large memorial. You might even say a shrine to Shelley.
Come on, Hogg.
Coming.
Hogg exits. And that is our show, folks.
Yay.
So much enthusiasm.
Yay!